Welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Aparna Vatve, Faculty of Tata Institute of Social Sciences. This module is about Indian acts and policies on forest. This is part of Environment and Society paper. In this module, I will be talking about three important acts which are related to the forest habitat in India. We will also talk about National Forest Policy. We will look at the history and consequences of the acts and the policies about forest. India lives in villages. Even today, a very large part of India's population lives in rural areas. Forest plays an important role in the lives of local people. People are dependent on fruits of mahua trees, sal and tendupatta leaves. They collect them and sell them in the market to add income. In many areas, agricultural income is supported by people collecting forest produce and selling it in the market. Fuel wood, fodder, wild vegetables, bamboo are all forest produce that are daily required by local people. 70% of rural people depend on fuel wood. Forest provides a range of environmental benefits. It supports agriculture and other rural livelihood activities. In India, forest sector is second to the agricultural sector. 300 million people live in and around forests. About 100 million are completely dependent on forests for survival. They make a living by collecting and selling forest produce like bamboo, seeds, gums and raisins, and sometimes medicinal plants. Most of these are tribal communities. Forest resources have always been claimed by different groups. Colonial government was mainly interested in the timber. They viewed the forest as commercially producing sector. They also wanted to have control over other minor forest produce. They treated forest as areas of production. Local people and their use of forest was a nuisance to the commercial production. The first forest law was made by the British government for protecting their own commercial interests in the forest. The first act, the Indian Forest Act, was passed in 1927. This act was to secure exclusive state control on the forest. This was to protect timber trees and other forest produce. Most of the village land had been traditionally managed by the forest dwelling communities. But this act stated that state owned all forest areas. It reserved the power to regulate use of forest. Finally, they used this power to override the customary rights. The act created three categories of forest. Reserve forests were the highest category. Reserve forests are the most protected of these three categories. No rights could be acquired in the reserve forest except by succession or by grant or contract with the government. Felling of trees, grazing of cattle was banned. Removing forest produce, quarrying, hunting and fishing were all offences. People who broke this law could be jailed or fined. Indian Forest Act is an act of the central government. Many states have their own similar forest acts with some modifications. This law did have a process of recognition of traditional rights of area by the local people. This was to be done at the time of declaration of the forest. Nistar rights were recognized in few cases. Nistar rights are traditional rights of access and rights of use of forest produce. People who had Nistar rights could continue to use the forest produce. They could collect timber, firewood, and other minor forest produce. They could also graze or go fishing in the reserve forest. But such rights were very rare. In most of the cases, there were forest settlement officers identified to recognize these rights, but they did not do their jobs properly. In many cases, people's rights were never documented. There were many conflicts about the rights of use of forest. The tribals opposed this act. It affected their lives. There was also much corruption at the local level because every time somebody wanted to go to the forest, they would be stopped by the local forest guard. One more category under this act is the village forest. State government could assign the right of use of a government forest to a village. The village was supposed to use this forest and manage it for their own needs. In Himalayas, communities use this to get management control over their own forests. But recently in Maharashtra, this provision has been used for a different purpose. In some areas, new state forest rules allow panchayats to control the forest. But this is against the interest of the local tribals. Panchayat is an elected body. Tribals may not have good representation in that. They could be marginalized in the decision making. So if a tribal group has interest in protecting the forest, the panchayat may not be interested at all, and the tribal group could not influence the decisions of the panchayats. There are regular conflicts about control of forest between tribal and non-tribal communities, especially the panchayat members. India's first forest policy was made in 1952, but between 1952 to 1980, a lot of forest was degraded. This loss was mainly because of conversion. State governments opened their forest lands and allowed conversion to other non-forest activities. Industries, agriculture, mining, and large infrastructural projects came up on the forest lands. This was made easy by the Indian Forest Act because it was actually to protect the interests of the government. But looking at this destruction, central government passed the Forest Conservation Act in 1980. According to this act, prior approval of the central government was required even when the state government wanted to de-reserve certain forest. Logging, mining, and conversion for many other purposes was restricted to some extent by the new act. At this time, there was a need for new forest policy. Earlier forest policy was totally oriented towards revenue generation from the forest. The new forest policy was needed to focus attention on ecological functions of the forest. It had to incorporate views of the environmental lobby. The National Forest Policy of 1988 is concerned with the sustainable use and conservation of forest. It strengthens the Forest Conservation Act of 1980. It is very different from the other earlier forest policies. Earlier policies gave priorities to the government interest. They also gave priority to the industrial sector for the use of forest products. The 1988 forest policy gave priority to the maintenance of ecological balance. This was to be done by conservation of biological diversity. The objectives of the policy were soil and water management, increase in tree cover, and efficient use of forest produce. This policy very clearly stated the need to ensure people's involvement in the conservation of forest. It clearly stated that the forest should meet the needs of local people for food, fuel wood, fodder, and non-wood forest products. The National Forest Policy of 1988 understands the customary rights and concessions of communities living in and around forest. It gives priority to the people over the interests of industry and government. The new policy laid down procedures for the conversion of forest into non-forest uses. Conservation of forest as a natural heritage was also included in the policy. This policy stated that network of protected areas should be strengthened and extended. In 1992, 73rd Amendment to the Constitution supported governance through the Panchayat. All states can provide power to the local panchayats to manage local forest resources. This legislation curtailed the indiscriminate logging and release of forest land for non-forestry purposes. But central government's restrictions were sometimes so strict that the state government started losing revenue that was coming from the forest. There was no mechanism to compensate the state government for the loss of timber logging revenues. Many state governments did not like this fact. They have always tried to dilute the central acts. The provisions of the acts and policies were initially restricted to the land declared as forest land, but the definition of forest was never clearly mentioned in the act. Many of the forests were outside of the forest lands. Sacred groves were good forest habitats, but they were often on revenue lands or private lands. Many private lands also had forest-like vegetation. All of these were degrading and something had to be done for that. In 1996, Mr. T. N. Godavarman filed a case against the government. It was a petition to stop illegal felling of timber in the Nilgiris. This was not always on the forest department's land. In response to this petition, Supreme Court said that forest would be defined as dictionary meaning, but it did not actually give this meaning. Supreme Court assumed the responsibility for implementing the Forest Conservation Act with all the forest areas irrespective of the land ownership. These were to be called forest-alike areas. In the 1996 ruling, Supreme Court asked the states to identify, demarcate and notify forest areas, even those which are outside the forest lands. This process is still not complete. This case has confused everyone. Today, one is not sure if the privately owned forests are to be governed as private lands or as forest lands. All the above acts and policies were made for limiting destruction of forest, but their purpose is only partially fulfilled. These acts and policies have been criticized by social and environmental scientists. In practice, the law only restricts the poor and the marginal communities because they are powerless. The law can be totally neglected or bent as they like by the rich and affluent people in the society. Social activists put constant pressure for a new act that supports traditional rights of local communities. The Scheduled Tribes and other traditional forest dwellers Recognition of Forest Rights Act was passed in 2006. In short, it is known as Forest Rights Act. This one act has also generated very mixed feelings. Social activists and local communities were happy with the provisions, but many corporates, environmentalists and bureaucrats are very confused as well as unhappy. Before we discuss the provisions of this act, let us take a look back at the history of forest dwelling communities. Millions of people live in and around forest lands. They have no legal rights to their homes, lands or livelihoods. This is mainly because their rights were never recognized at the time of forest declaration. This act recognizes forest dwellers' rights and makes conservation more accountable. Under the Indian Forest Act, areas were declared as government forest without completing the procedure of right recognition. As many as 82% of Madhya Pradesh forest and 40% of Odisha's reserve forest were never surveyed for people's rights. Till today, 60% of India's national parks have not completed the process of survey and settlement of rights of local people. But without settlement of rights, many of these people have been displaced from the protected areas. All the people living next to the forest daily face restrictions for going into the forest. On one hand, the National Forest Policy states that people can take whatever they require for their needs from the forest. But at the same time, when people try to go to the forest guards will stop them. People are subject to harassment and eviction in many areas of India. They have been treated as encroachers in their own homes. Corruption and violence are common around forest areas. The Commissioner for Scheduled Castes and Scheduled Tribes has said that the criminalization of the entire communities in tribal area is the darkest blot on the liberal tradition of our country. Indian Forest Act abolished customary rights. This was repeated when Wildlife Protection Act was passed in 1972. The statement of the Forest Rights Act describes it as a law intended to correct historical injustice done to forest dwellers by the failure to recognize their rights. Forest Rights Act has two provisions. It grants legal recognition to the rights of the traditional forest dwelling communities, and it gives communities a voice in the forest and wildlife conservation. There are two stages to be eligible under this act. First, a person has to satisfy two conditions. The person has to be primarily residing in forest or forest lands. There should be a bona fide livelihood need. It means that there should be a dependence on the forest and forest land for livelihood. Second, the person has to prove that the above condition has been true for 75 years, in which case the person will be grouped as other traditional forest dweller. Or the person has to prove that he is or she is a member of a scheduled tribe and has been residing in the area where they are scheduled. In the later case, the person is a forest dwelling scheduled tribe. 3 types of rights are recognized by this law. First is the land right. No one gets the rights to any land that they have not been cultivating prior to December 13, 2005 or land that they are not cultivating at present. Those who are cultivating the land but don't have documents to claim this can claim up to 4 hectares as long as they are cultivating the land themselves. Those who have a patta or a government lease but their land was illegally taken by the forest department or is subject to dispute between forest and revenue department can claim those lands. This land cannot be sold or transferred to anyone except through inheritance. The law provides for community rights to use and collect the following: forest produce like tendupatta, herbs, medicinal plants which have been traditionally collected. It does not include timber. People can access grazing grounds and water bodies. Traditional areas of use are nomadic or pastoral communities can be claimed under this act. These provisions come under the Community Forest Rights or CFR. The third right is the right to protect and conserve. For the first time, this law gives the community the right to protect and manage the forest. It provides right and power to conserve community forest resources. The community has general power to protect wildlife and forest habitat. This is vital for thousands of village communities who are protecting their forest and wildlife against the threat of forest mafias, land grabbers and industry. Section 6 of the Act provides a transparent 3-step procedure for deciding who gets the rights. The Gram Sabha plays a prominent role because it is the full village assembly. Gram Sabha can make a recommendation. It can state who has been cultivating the land, for how long, and which minor forest produce is collected. Gram Sabha plays this role because it is a public body where all people can participate. It is fully democratic and transparent process. Gram Sabha's recommendation goes through 2 stages of screening committees at the taluka and district level. The district level committee makes the final decision. This committee has 6 members. There are 3 government officers and 3 are elected persons. Any person who believes that the claim is false can appeal to the committee. The land recognized under this act cannot be transferred. Many villages in India have today taken advantage of Forest Right Acts and they have managed to be self-sustainable and economically developed. Mendhalekha village in Gadchiroli in Maharashtra has been leading the struggle of control over forest produce. Community forest rights of Mendhalekha village in Gadchiroli were recognized following the FRA procedure. Today, it has initiated forest governance and management processes that are financially viable, socially equitable, and ecologically sustainable. Another village in Amravati district received its community forest rights in 2012. They devised forest use and protection rules leading to conservation of forest. They increased production of grass, custard apple, and tendu leaves. In the Bilgiri Ranganthittu Tiger Reserve area of Karnataka, 33 settlements received community forest rights titles. They came together to formulate a tiger conservation plan. In Gujarat's Narmada district, more than 60 villages initiated simple governance systems to protect and manage forest. In the Simlipal Tiger Reserve of Orissa, villages with CFR titles devised simple, rule-based, adaptive governance systems for their forest. Today, they are protecting their forest. Many communities across the country have successfully stopped commercial forestry operations in their CFR areas. Orissa has supported 200,000 individual households which hold forest land titles. They have done this through conversion programs related to Indira Awas Yojana and MG Narega land development programs. They have increased irrigation and horticulture through these programs. Some particularly vulnerable tribal groups have claimed habitat rights under this act. Baigas of central India have had some success in recognition of their rights in Baiga Chak area. Other vulnerable communities like Lodhas, Konds and Bondas are also in the process of claiming habitat rights. The implementation of this act has been stalled in many ways. Forest Department and Revenue Department are reluctant to deal with the processes of this law. It reduces their control over land and discourages corporate investments. Tribal Department, which is in the charge of implementation, has not been able to deal with these conflicts of interest. Environmental lobby is divided in its opinion. Environmentalists who focus mainly on habitats and species protection have opposed FRA. They feel that it will open up forest areas for exploitation by people. In some places, false claims have been filed by non-eligible people. State and central government have created conflicting rules and policies that do not recognize the provisions of Forest Rights Act. Compensatory Afforestation Fund Act of 2016 provides incentives to displace forest dwellers from protected areas. It has made funding allocations for that. But this is against the principle of Forest Rights Act. Joint Forest Management Committee has the rights of use and management of forest areas. Under Forest Rights Act, this control should actually go to Gram Sabhas. There are many conflicting situations like this. Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change has issued guidelines in August 2015 to lease 40% of degraded forest in the country to private companies for afforestation. These guidelines are in violation of Forest Rights Act. They have forgotten the fact that most of these forests are either already having community forest rights or in the process of claim settlement. Various acts and policies related to forests in India have irreversibly impacted the rural population. Tribals have faced many impacts. Many issues of impoverishment, displacement, and powerlessness of the communities are a direct result of loss of access over forest resources. There are possibilities of sustainable management of these resources, but many conflicts have to be resolved before we start implementation. If you are interested in this topic, you can take a look at our e-text. You can also look at the essential reading section. Many documents and websites give information about this act. I hope you found this module interesting. We look forward to seeing you again. Thank you.